We secure the bag, ladies and gentlemen.
The Nintendo Switch 2 is becoming one of the fastest consoles to sell from Nintendo, and they managed to sell 3.5 million consoles in just 4 days. And to give you perspective, the PS5 sold 3.4 million units in 4 weeks. The Switch 2 was able to do that in 4 days. But I don't even need these numbers to tell you that this was a very successful launch for the Switch 2. Like, I could just tell from this massive line that I was waiting in from the launch day that this was something special. Like, when I was waiting in that line, it felt very nostalgic to me. If you see those videos of the Xbox 360 being released during launch day, it had very similar vibes to it. And since this was my very first console release to participate in, it was kind of nice to see like the good vibes from some people waiting in line. I got to meet some really chill people and also got to see a lot of people just generally excited for this console. And after playing the Switch 2 for a few days, would I recommend someone to buy this right now? As in, is this so good that you're willing to sell your soul for just a chance to own a console? Well, my answer is definitely not, especially at this moment. Like, there's not really a cool game out right now for the Switch 2 where I'm like, you gotta get this console right now and take advantage of the new specs. I mean, there is Mario Kart World, which does a pretty decent job of showing you what the console is really capable of, but I don't think that's enticing enough for a lot of people to like buy the Switch at like double the price, unless you're like a really die-hard Nintendo fan. But moving on to the box, what do you get from buying this Nintendo Switch? Well, you get the console itself, and then you get some controllers, and under the hood you get some cables and the dock itself. The Switch has like a matte finish, and the controllers feel about the same as like the old Switch controllers, but the buttons are a little bit bigger. And the way you disconnect the controllers now is that there's this button on the back. Once you give it a firm press, it just releases the Joy-Cons instead of just sliding it on that rail system that the OG Switch had. But don't worry, it still gives a satisfying click when you slot in the controller where it's supposed to go.
Since they're a little different, let's listen to this ASMR. It's not as satisfying as like that sliding rail, but in my opinion, I still prefer the rail systems from the Switch 1 because it was more satisfying. I also like the new controllers on the Switch 2 because they're a lot bigger than the first ones. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm playing Mario Kart, the size of those buttons are really tiny. They're like the same size as like the action button on the iPhone. So when you're trying to drift, there's a chance you might miss the button. But since the Switch 2's left and right bumper buttons are a lot bigger, you won't have this issue. So it's a good change overall for the controller. One cool feature about the new joysticks is that you can use them as a mouse now. I can't really give my full thoughts on this feature just yet because there wasn't really any games I could test this feature on, but when that new Metroid game comes out, I'm pretty sure that will be a game where you'd probably want to turn your joystick into a mouse so you can be more accurate with your shots. When that game comes out, I will definitely test this feature out, but I was pretty surprised how seamless it is to basically go from controller mode to like mouse mode. You do need that little accessory and kind of make it glide a little bit easier, but you technically don't need it, but I'd recommend you should because it might scuff up the controller, and these things are pretty expensive to replace, so don't do that. So use the bumpers when you can. I also missed the fact that the controllers aren't two different colors anymore. The Switch 1 was two drastically different colors to kind of remind you that you have the ability to give the other controller to a friend if you guys wanted to run like a co-op game together. This console still has that, but it's just a very subtle reminder. It's almost like they're trying to reel in the handheld PC market with the all-black aesthetic, but I'm sure somewhere down the line Nintendo's gonna introduce these old-school colors, fully painted, so we'll just have to wait and see. And what surprised me the most about this new console is that the magnet system is actually pretty sturdy. Like when you try to bend it, there is a little bit of give, especially at the crease of the right controller. But I still feel pretty confident about holding this console in one hand. Like the magnets on this console when it's connected is pretty strong, so you should not worry about it just falling apart on you. The screen on the Switch is pretty beautiful. Maybe I'm biased because I'm converting from my day one Switch, but that HDR 1080p screen is really amazing. Like it makes Mario Kart or even like Zelda look very phenomenal. And if you're wondering about the 120 FPS claim, I can't test it yet because there's not really a game that supports it at the moment, except that World Tour game, and I'm not trying to pay $10 for that bullshit. But I will say that the audio is so much better and doesn't sound like a tin can compared to like the OG Switch. Like the sounds are a lot more crisp, to the point where you can hear the balance of all the sounds instead of just hearing like the trebles from the Switch one. The kickstand on the back of the device was pretty nice. Like you can really dial down like the viewing angle to whatever position you want. And if you're worried about the kickstand like flopping, don't worry. It takes a good amount of force to just push the stand around. So trust that this will hold your console up in that perfect viewing angle that you desire. And with the new hardware of the Switch, it runs pretty good. Like just playing Mario Kart World on this thing, like I had no complaints. The performance was pretty smooth. There wasn't any stuttering that I could notice. And the fact that it ran in 60 FPS was kind of nice. If you wanted to test like your old games from the Switch 1 and this console, you can absolutely do that, only if you pay for the Switch 2 upgrades for some of them. So I paid the $10 so I can see how smooth Tears of the Kingdom is going to run on the new Switch. And wow, was I amazed. The game ran at constant 60 FPS mode, and watching it in 1080p was actually kind of nice. It almost tempted me to play the whole game again, which I might do because I paid the extra $10, so I might as well get my money's worth, right? And if you're ever tired of just playing in handheld mode, the seamless switch between tabletop and the dock mode is pretty seamless. And if you happen to have like a good 4K TV, it looks pretty good on that TV too. The game still runs pretty well despite it running at 4K. But my one big complaint about the Switch is the user interface. Like, why the hell does this still look the same as the Switch 1? Like, at least change it up and add some like dynamic background or something. Like, I know the real reason why they probably don't have it is because you don't want it eating performance or even battery life, especially when this is in handheld mode, right? So, I get it, but why not go crazy when it's like in dock mode, you know? Where you don't have that restraint of battery power. Like, just show what this thing is capable of. Like, it'd be cool if they just spiced it up, you know? Instead of having it basically have the recycled UI of the Switch 1. Well, anyways, since the console has a more powerful engine behind it, the menu is pretty smooth and easy to navigate now. Because in the OG Switch, I used to crash out all the time whenever I had to use the store. Because it was slow, laggy, and it just made the experience of using it unbearable. To the point where I would purposely avoid going to the eShop. Like, you should see how bad it got. Like, every time I accidentally opened the eShop, I would just be upset and it would just ruin my day. But ever since I got the Switch 2, I can kind of peruse the store without any lag or delay. And it's kind of nice, not worrying about the lag for once. The new chat button is something that I don't like. I don't appreciate the fact that we're having to pay money for like this Discord equivalent for the Switch. Like, all the other consoles allow you to talk to your friends for free, unlike other platforms. So it's kind of whack that they're charging money for this. But there is a free trial which will expire next year, so I decided to just try out the game chat function just for funsies. And testing out the microphone, it's actually not bad. And it does a pretty good job filtering out the other noises that isn't just a human voice. With that being said, if you're close to an iPad kid and they happen to be just doom scrolling on TikTok, the Switch 2 might pick it up. And I was genuinely surprised that despite being 7 feet away from the switches, it was still able to pick up the sound of my voice without having me yell across the room. If you're one of those few people that still buy physical, the game cartridges on the Switch 2 is red. It acts as a subtle way to flex on the people who still have the original poverty Switch and remind them to get the bag up so they can afford it. But other than that, it's just a red case, that's it. And some of them don't even have the whole game in them, so I don't know about that. Oh, I forgot to mention, one neat thing I found out about the console is that you can still use your OG Switch controllers for the new console, meaning I was able to just pair the Switch 1 controllers or even the Pro controller without having any issues or doing anything special. Like, it just magically knows that you're trying to pair it and it just works without any issues. Like, there's even a different icon of which controllers you're trying to pair. So it's kind of nice knowing that you don't have to buy Switch controllers. But if I were you, I would lie to your friends and say, oh, sorry guys, we can't use the old accessories. We're gonna have to buy a new one, so you better chip in. Honestly, you guys should do that. Like, these controllers are $90. Just lie. Get a free controller. If they want to play Mario Kart, they gotta chip in at least, you know what I mean? Well, in conclusion about the Switch 2, I can't say I'm fully satisfied with my purchase yet, because there's barely any launch titles for me to really like test it. I'm looking forward to when Duskbloods come out, or even that Metro game that's allegedly 120 FPS mode in like tabletop, which is like 120 FPS even in like handheld mode. So if you're trying to decide if this is worth to get like right now, I would say absolutely not. I would just wait till Nintendo makes more games for this console before you really consider getting one, because $450 is a lot of money. You can get a PS5 instead of like a Nintendo Switch. So I would say just wait until you see a game that you really like to play on Nintendo Switch and then make your decision from there. But if you're one of those people like me who are rocking the day one Switch, it is a really fantastic upgrade. Think of it like you're upgrading from like the iPhone 11 to like the iPhone 16. There is enough features there that justifies the extra money, which is why I even decided to upgrade it in the first place. So yeah, that's my recommendation. That's all I got for you guys today. If you guys liked the video, go and hit the like button and subscribe, and then I'll see you guys on the next one.